All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be the last talk presentation of the day. We have a special guest today. He flew in today just for this. This is Mr. Clint Kemp. He is the operating manager, owner, what are you?
I don't know.
One of those.
Yeah,
of Blackfly Lodge. It's a bone fishing lodge over in Abaco. He is also the president of the Bahamas Fly Fishing Lodge Association. And today he's going to talk to us about the flats fishing regulations, which has been an area of contention over the last few years. And
Great.
take.
Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you for the invitation. It's always good to be here right before lunch. Everybody's hungry. Half the crowd leaves. It's perfect. Anyway, but I really would like to say thank you for the invitation to be here. I really appreciate the work that is represented in this room. Bahamas National Trust, Bonefish Tarpon Trust, and many of the other scientists that work around.
Oh, no, never mind.
Sorry, that help us understand our world a lot better. And I can't say thank you enough for that. I don't have any fancy slides today, so I'm sorry about that. No graphs or charts, but I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm not going to be that long. But I was invited here to talk about the fishing regulations, and I can't do that without creating some sort of context for this discussion, because this discussion is related to a lot of high-energy political conversation that without context won't make a lot of sense. And you need to know sort of who I am and where I'm coming from, in all fairness. So let me introduce myself. In the Bahamas, whenever you get introduced to anyone, they always want to know who your people are. And I want to tell you who my people are and where I've come from. It's important to the story. So in 1693, brothers were given a bunch of land here in Nassau from Cornwall, England, and they showed up here. They were my ancestors. You would think that would make me a rich white boy. But they didn't do well. And so by the 1940s, when my father was born, he was born into a 4-room house on Mosley Lane in the Kemp district. Still had our name, but didn't have any of the money. There was 8 children and my grandparents living in its house. They grew up in relative poverty. My father was a smack fisherman. My grandfather was a smack fisherman. And then my father became an offshore fishing guide. So we grew up in that environment, and the family was sustained by the ocean in both livelihood and their daily food. So I caught my love for the ocean from my father. I grew up on the water, and he gave me a great love for the water. And my vocational direction, though, was chosen by my relationship with my grandfather on my mother's side, who was a minister. So after serving for 16 years as a senior pastor of New Providence Community Church, which is located out here, out in the west, a little strange church, I was there for 16 years, and after that time, the church decided they needed to give me a sabbatical because things in my life, I needed a break. And I've been fly fishing all my life, so I decided I would take a year, which they gave me, which is a tremendous gift, and I walked the flats with my fly rod for 3 months. And I came to a place on a flat, I knew exactly where it was, on the south side of Nassau, just walking, and I stopped, and it hit me. This is my secret soul. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but I became a guide, and I guided here in Nassau for a number of years. And I traded my weekend platform speaking in front of hundreds of people for this beautiful platform above the boat with one person and a lot of quietness all around me. So I guided here in Nassau for 3 years, and then I moved to Abaco to start the Blackfly Lodge. And so that's my journey for the last 12 years. It's in this context that I've come to understand the incredible fragility and complexity of the environment that makes up the shallow water world that we call the flats. And again, thank you for all of you making that. You know what I love about you guys? You say I don't know a lot. And that's a beautiful thing because it's a mystery. And I remember I met Aaron. Every time I meet Aaron, I ask him, and he says, I don't know. But we found out this. But then I ask him another question. So I really don't know. So that's a beautiful thing. There's a mystery here. I love it. It's a great integration with all of my life. So anyway, as complex as what's going on under the water on the flats is equally the complexity of the tension that exists above the water in this delicate and somewhat tenuous balance between our responsibility of being stewards of the natural environment, the economic realities of the sport fishing industry, and the political challenge to create sound policy that is good for both. So I really appreciate, again, the work of the BNT and others who create the management of these national park services and all those other things. I mean, we are a better country because of it. But I want to tell you, and I think everyone would agree with this, throughout the Bahamas, the marine environment's under great pressure in the face of our country developing and progress happening. In Nassau, while I was here for 3 years, I watched the unabated degradation of the bonefish population around this island, due in part to illegal netting and unchecked destruction of habitat by developers who sought deep water access through flats and the destruction of vast amounts of mangroves. It was a really frustrating and really demoralizing couple of years for me here, watching and listening to different organizations tell me it wasn't their job, we don't have the resources, call somebody else. And that was my experience of introduction into the bonefishing world. So, again, not only in Nassau, but you only have to fly over some of the other family islands to see the scars of what development has done, both on the flats and on the shoreline. And, you know, you go to Grand Bahama, we have this big new thing on the agenda of this oil refinery. And forgive me for being political, but that is a serious issue that faces all of us as environmentalists, and we should be, you know, raising up in arms about what's going on here. The list goes on and on. I won't bore you with all that stuff, but there is illegal fishing, both in the north and the south. We think about it just being the Dominicans down south, but it's also the guys who pop over from Florida and take tons and tons of fish. All of these things are affecting us all. As successive governments, they're part of the issue as well. Their inaction in producing sustainable regulations and policy to both protect and promote the resource. We've been waiting now for over 2 years for the Fishery Act to be amended. That's too long to wait in a country like ours, where we are so, you know, I mean, the regulations are so important to who we are. So anyway, the Bahamas is blessed with this vast and rich natural resource of the ocean that surrounds our islands. And the skinny water and the deep water are connected. They're the same, it's the same conversation. We knew this as fishermen, anecdotally, that what happened over here in the flats was connected to what happened in the ocean, but it wasn't until BTT came along and we sent them some pictures of this massive aggregation of bonefish down south in Abaco and took pictures of it, and then they started sending scientists and doing studies, and we realized those fish are going off in the ocean at night and they're spawning and all the rest of it, and all the things that these scientists have been saying to us, it confirmed what we knew and added to that knowledge. So these two bodies of water are just one body of water. And there can be no meaningful discussion regarding marine policy or regulation that does not include all aspects of the marine environment, particularly sport fishing. Not only a challenge for the government, but even more so for the industry itself. The old adage that when the people lead, the government will follow is never more appropriate in this sector that I'm a part of right now. It is incumbent on the sport fishing industry to be a powerful voice of conservation and providing voice to the government and policymaking. Much more has to be done among stakeholders in the different sport fishing sectors to form effective organizations and represent their interests. The fly fishing sector has in recent years formed several guide associations, independent guide associations, and as of last year, I and a group of lodge owners came together to form a lodge association. We are not politicians, we're fishermen. I've been asked by a number of politicians, you know, be more visible. I'm working hard. I took a day off from fishing to come here, and we are booked solid for the rest of the year. But whatever it takes, I will be here, and we will help, and we will add voice to this. And so this is really, really important to us. There's a wholesale agreement in the industry that we need comprehensive legislation. No one is against that. No one's against the regulations that are being proposed. We need to work together with the government and science community so we can develop a sustainable policy that both protects and develops this resource. I propose to the government that they start out by at least creating some sort of sport fishing council that would include sports fishermen, scientists, other stakeholders, and come together and listen. And I hope that they heed that. They're saying they're going to listen, and we'll see what happens. But we need a very comprehensive management plan. The sport fishing industry is a global enterprise, and the Bahamas should be a leader in that space, both in protection and development. It's our birthright and it's our responsibility. I could never put it more profoundly and succinctly than Babadoom said many years ago. In the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we have been taught. Now, here's some big fears I see, and I think that you can help us address. I fear that as a culture, we are experiencing a disconnect from the ocean. Fewer and fewer young people are fishing and diving and engaging in opportunities right in front of them. I cannot tell you one single time in all of my life that I have seen a Bahamian fly fishing on the flats. Now, granted, I've not fished everywhere, but where I've fished, Abaco, Nassau, and other islands, never. It's unbelievable. And how can we protect what we don't love and if we don't understand it? So you see where I'm going. As a culture, we struggle to love ourselves. This is a deeper issue, more of an anthropological issue than what we're dealing with here, but nonetheless, it's connected. We destroy our native trees. When we build a house, we clear cut everything because we don't like the way they look, and we put up stuff we got from Florida. And then we were a fish culture, now we're a chicken culture. There's all these, it just keeps going on, and it affects this conversation here. We will never be able to love what we're disconnected from and no longer understand. So education obviously is a key, and again, thank you to BTT, and others who are providing educational resources. I think this needs to go way further. It needs to be embedded into our Family Island curriculum as well. I noticed that the University of Bahamas has the small island sustainability with marine science, all these things. I hope that that develops into the business and the protection of our resource. You know, there's the old 10-year-old study now that says that it's $150 million or so a year that comes into our country because of fly fishing and related activities. And so it does provide a tremendous opportunity for career development, and I would love to see more and more young people get involved. Just a word about what we do. The 12 lodges that I represent are throughout the Bahamas. We employ 250 people or so, $4.5 million a year in revenue, in payroll, and account for about 5,000 visitors in the Family Islands. So when you combine this data with the number of other lodges, independent guides, DIY fishermen, you can see the economic potential for Bahamians who are in this space. But it goes much further than just the economics of it. We need mentoring programs. We need lodges to open their doors and invite young people like we're sitting here in this room. Sorry they all left. But you know, we can invite them in and have summer jobs, mentor them, intern them. We have a guide crisis in this country. Again, I can only speak to the places that I am aware of, but I can tell you that in Abaco, it's hard to find qualified guides. There's a talk about creating programs for that, but the only program you can create to create a good guide is a boat and a solid mentor that teaches and mentors that young guide along. Because just because you have some certificate doesn't mean you are qualified. And that's our point. We really need to get people more engaged, particularly the young people, and our industry is responsible for that. So it goes deeper than the economics, though. We need the mentoring programs. We need greater linkages with the science. The stuff I'm hearing today, I figure we need to figure out a way to get it to our people, get it to people like me more often. And maybe if I don't work so hard, I can come to these things. That would be good. But I want to say a great word again. Thank you to all of you. I just can't say that enough because I just really you need to hear it from us about what you're doing. We need to have a vision in this country of being global leaders in the stewardship of this country's great natural resources and becoming the premier destination for the traveling angler. That means we need to have good governance. And I guess if you were waiting for me to debate the fishing regulation issue, that's not really what's in front of us. That's not really what we need to deal with. We need to deal with the bigger issues, the meta issues of governance. We need to have the political will to make hard decisions, to right some of the wrongs that have been done, to lead into the future with comprehensive management plans that makes the Bahamas the world-class fishing destination that we know it is. We are suffering right now from an economic perspective. We are giving way to other jurisdictions all over the world, and that just simply doesn't have to be. So education, economics, good governance, but it goes even deeper. It goes to the soul of the country. My faith journey is marked by a few very simple things. The older I get, the less I know about everything, and particularly fishing and faith. They go together. But one of my simple mantras in life is love wins. And we must work together to create an awareness of what we've been given in such a way that we fall deeply in love with it. Again, I saw these kids here and I thought, yes! And then they all left and I went, oh, well, okay. But they had to be here anyway. But I know the people in here, I mean, science and faith go together for me. You got to have love. None of you guys are doing this for a lot of money. I mean, I don't think any of you are I'm not making tons of money. I do this because I love it. But my bottom line, I got people who have more money than almost God, and they come fishing with me. They all want to do what I'm doing. So I'm a multi-gazillionaire. And if we can help our culture redefine what bottom line really is and how important this is and what's going on here, we will win. But that starts with us helping our young people fall in love with what we have. Wendell Berry said it like this: the care of the earth is our most ancient and most worthy, and after all, our most pleasing responsibility. To cherish what remains of it and to foster its renewal is our only hope. And I really seriously believe that. And I thank you for giving me the space today to talk about this. I thank you for bringing sort of the retail arm of what you do into this, because I think it's absolutely critical for the future success and protection of our environment. So thank you for this opportunity. I'll entertain any questions or anything you might have. Yes, sir. You want to know where the permit are?
Officer in Bimini, and we just gave a fisheries enforcement workshop in Bimini for all different agencies: Customs, Immigration, Police, Defense Force, and so on. And at any rate, we got to know this new fisheries officer really helped us run the workshop. He recognizes exactly what you've said. Bimini is starving for the next generation of fishing guides, and that's what I would like to spend time, but I would talk to you just for a few minutes afterwards. He had just started a program together with the science teacher at the high school, an expatriate who does a lot of bone fishing in Bimini, and a couple of the senior bonefish guides who are just retiring, and you'd know them. At any rate, he's starting, and he's started already, actually, and hopefully to train these guys, get them through the host program, and teach them the ecology, teach them biology of the flats, you know, all that kind of stuff, and it just sounds terrific. And the poor guy, I want to say poor guy, I mean, he's doing it, but he's not really qualified to do it in a lot of ways. He's kind of struggling and looking for help. So that's why I'd like to talk to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it takes. But I think there's a lot of help to be given to folks like that. A lot. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a quick comment about some of the things that are going on and why I think forums like this are so important. Our partnership with the BNT and the BTT currently, which one of our officers is going to be sharing on later in the afternoon, is a great sign of the hope that there is for this industry, because often in settings like this, it's very gloomy because there's not a lot of hope. But we were able to establish this curriculum that has reached upwards to we are the Bahamas National Trust. And we've reached upwards to 1,000 kids across 9 islands already. And one of the things that we've been doing with our programs, particularly our Discovery Club program, is trying to be more relevant with our approach to conservation education. So thinking about what communities of people exist where. We found ourselves teaching kids in Mangrove Key, for example, how to be scuba certified when that's not a huge industry on the island. So now we're shifting gears to focus more on the flats fishing industry, which is huge in that part of Andros. So I just say that to say that there is a whole lot of work that is going on now that's coming to the forefront, especially as of this conference. So there is hope, and there's a lot of things to see, and we're going to be counting on the communities of people, just like you said, the fishers with the experience to be the mentors to these young people across the country that are, I can tell you from personal experience, they are interested and they want to they want to see this continue into their future because this is all they've really got. So there's hope, everybody. There's hope.
Well, thank you. Hey, and again, I really, really appreciate that work. And I'm waiting for a phone call. Because I have never, ever gotten a phone call in 12 years from the government, from anybody else to say, can you help us? Because we're there, we're ready. And we understand how important it is. It's our responsibility to help. So we're there. But thank you.
I have a question for you regarding the fishing regulations and the context of it, I guess. The U.S. and most other countries regulate and manage fisheries and anglers comprehensively. In the Bahamas, they've carved out flats fishermen. And going back, and you are probably I know you're much more knowledgeable than me. Why, and I know some of this history, but has there been any discussion of making the management of angling and guides and related activities broader than flats fishing? From a revenue standpoint, if you include all the offshore people and the reef fishermen and stuff, it probably will double the revenue that the country would receive and more money to support management, enforcement, and all those types of things. Has there been any consideration of broadening that to make it more inclusive so that everyone that fishes in Bahamian waters pays their fair share?
Absolutely. You know, there aren't too many countries you can go and fish in anywhere without a fishing license, like you're saying. So every one of our conversations, I was just with the Prime Minister last week, and I told him exactly the same thing. I said, you know, it's discriminatory in some respects that it's only just the fly fishing world. But on the other hand, the fly fishing world is the only one that has associations. I've spoken to the captains here in Nassau who represent the offshore day trip people. They don't have an association. So there's not a lot of structure for that to happen. So what we're doing is trying to get this council together to invite all these stakeholders together, because there needs to be some formal structure so that can be more comprehensive. But I've spoken, again, to the different ministers, to the Prime Minister. This has to be a comprehensive deal. But because the fly fishing world space is more organized, then it gives us a little structure to run on, and I think it's a good model to start, and then work out from there. So that's sort of the rail that I hope we're going to run on, but eventually leading to a more comprehensive plan.
Yeah. Clint, good to see you.
Hey, Eric.
We would be very interested in that council. I think it's absolutely spot on because there's obviously no way to get broad consensus and stakeholder input. So please count on us if if you need our voice. We'd certainly like to be involved.
Absolutely.
I did want to, though, touch on the regulations and the impact, whether there is still an impact on the industry. Last we heard at BTT, whatever that was, we were in Fort Lauderdale, symposium, I spoke to a lot of stakeholders from the industry, especially the travel side, and they did express still that there was concern and impact, and I'm just wondering, from your perspective, whether it's still having an impact, how difficult it is to get licenses, and also, very importantly, whether you have heard any indication from the government that there is any intent to revise, update, right-size, the regulations.
So to the first part of that, I think it's different for a lot of people, a lot of lodges, a lot of guides. A lot of guides and lodges don't depend on agents, and a lot do. We don't, so we haven't seen any real impact. But those who have, it seems like the world of the agents, agent bookings, is down. I hear that from a lot of the lodges that we're associated with, and as much as 25% in some places, so there's still a significant impact. And all this is due to a negative perception that was created around these legislations proposed. So there's all that's still out there, and we all know the social media that blew up around that. It painted us in a way that was a lot antagonistic toward a foreign angler and all the rest of these. So I think there's a lot of work. There's some mending that needs to happen there. And in regard to the last part of that question, this is one of the issues we're struggling with on the political side of this now. I was told by the Prime Minister these regulations are suspended and that there would be a public announcement about that until there was further review and they would be revisited and reworked. I'm just telling you, I'm selling it like a boss. I'm not a politician, so I can say whatever I want and be honest about it. So, but that's where we're at. We would love to have this thing cleared up and work together. We're all on the same team in terms of conservation and regulation and all the rest of it. How it comes out, I think we have to take a really common sense approach to it. We have to model it based on other countries, particularly the U.S. and everything that we're so close to. We don't have to reinvent a lot. We can simplify it. We can make it more effective and efficient and all the rest of it. But it needs to happen. So we're all on that same page, all willing to work together. Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more question.
One more question. I was just curious, and I'm also with the Bahamas National Trust, with the association you have, and do you charge dues, one? And with those, what do you do with those dues?
We do charge dues. We're a very new organization that came out as a result of this because we weren't a part of the process. So we sort of created a forum, a structure, so that we could be a part of the process. And all of the dues are nominal. They all just go more for the legal side of things and that sort of thing. So it's a very, very young organization in terms of what we're doing. But we're mainly right now focused on being a voice of consensus among lodge owners. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.